Right now, there's no shortage of games you can play for free, but finding the ones that are worth your time is another story entirely. I've got some new additions as well as some changes to some of the old MMOs that might make them worth revisiting in 2023. Sometimes we want to play a new game, but we don't want to drop $60 on it just to find out it's garbage. If you can relate to that, here's some games that you can get hundreds of hours of time in without spending a dime. Some of these are completely free to play, some might be considered a little more free to try, and I'll try to tell you which is which when we go through the list so you can make an informed decision. First up, Guild Wars 2. There isn't really a better free-to-play MMO to start with. This is a AAA free-to-play MMO without any pay-to-win, a combination of things that is nearly unheard of. Guild Wars 2 originally launched in 2012 and is available on PC. It will let you play the first 80 levels for free, including all job stories and base game zones. This can easily work out to hundreds or even thousands of hours of great content. The game does not require a sub, and it doesn't even have an optional sub. If you enjoy the game, you can choose to buy the expansions to unlock some of the newest content and the cool zones and features. Guild Wars 2 does not feature your typical trinity of tank, healer, and damage dealer, but it does allow players to build towards specs that partially fill those roles. One strength of Guild Wars 2 definitely lies in its fully voice-acted main story, in which not only the NPCs that you interact with are voice-acted, but so is your character. This makes for a story experience that few MMOs can rival. Other strengths of Guild Wars 2 will be its incredible mount system and glider system. It's pretty much universally accepted that Guild Wars 2 does mounts better than any other MMO due to the way they handle and the fact that you can upgrade them and unlock improvements in things such as their jumping height or their jumping distance, reduced fall damage, and plenty more. Even Blizzard noticed one of these mounts and was definitely inspired by them in its most recent expansion, Dragonflight. Should you decide to enjoy the base game, I definitely recommend purchasing the expansions to take advantage of the amazing mounts and gliders, although they did make it so that you can now have access to the first mount as part of the base game. The monetization is incredibly fair as it's buy once and play forever with absolutely zero subscription. You can even convert your in-game gold to cash shop currency to buy things like your cosmetics without spending real money. Guild Wars 2 is still actively supported by the developers. Last year it released its brand new End of Dragons expansion. The expansion adds new mounts, fishing, new zones, and more amazing story content. In summary, you can play this game for 100% free. You can play the entire base game, which goes all the way up to level 80 for free. And then if you find that you're enjoying yourself, you can go ahead and purchase that expansion content. Or if you want to stay free to play, you can try it all over again on a new class. If you're looking for a highly polished, free-to-play Western MMO that is not bogged down with levels of pay-to-win that typically accompany free-to-play MMO titles, Guild Wars 2 is a great option for you. And speaking of pay-to-win, next up we've got Lost Ark. Launched in 2019 in Korea with a Western launch in 2022, Lost Ark is available on PC. Unlike many of the free-to-play options, Lost Ark will let you play the entire game for free. The cash shop is filled to the brim with pay-to-win, but as far as completely free-to-play MMOs go, not many can currently compete with this behemoth in terms of the amount of quality content you have access to for absolutely free. The game also features an optional sub to help you advance through it quicker and provide quite a bit of quality of life. You can purchase this subscription with in-game currency if you wish to try to go that route of playing the game for completely free. The game does not feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, but instead relies on every player to be responsible for themselves. Though there are classes that can kind of feel like a tank and there's others that can kind of feel like healers. A popular topic around Lost Ark is the sheer number of bots that exist within the game. However, that's not to say that there aren't also a ton of real players playing it as well. And being that it's one of the youngest games on this list, it's safe to say that it's still being actively supported by its developers. If you play Lost Ark for free, making progress at a decent speed in late game will require you to create alts to do dailies, and then funnel the materials from those alts to your main. If you're okay with progressing a little slower or making alts and doing dailies on all of your alts, you can still enjoy the game without spending a dime. So if you're looking for an isometric, top-down MMORPG that feels like Diablo and BDO had a baby, then Lost Ark might be a great option for you. Next up, we have Neverwinter. Neverwinter is an action combat MMO released in 2013. It's available on Xbox, Windows, and PlayStation. It is not cross-platform, so you and your friends would need to purchase the game on the same platform. It features voice-acted quests and really solid combat. Unlike many of the options on this list, you can play the entire game for free. No content is locked behind purchases. The game allows you to spend money to speed up your progress and solve problems it created. Your normal free-to-play affair. The game is an official Dungeons & Dragons game, so it takes place inside of that world. The end game is known for being an astronomical grind, almost never ending. Fortunately for new players, there's a lot of catch-up mechanics that help new players get caught up to old players who have been playing the game for years. The population is not huge, but it's large enough to not feel alone. If you want a Dungeons & Dragons style MMO that can be played completely for free, check out Neverwinter. This video brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global men's lifestyle brand that's disrupting the beard market. It's time to throw away that bulky beard trimmer you've been using for years that has dull blades blades, 10 useless guard attachments, and a bulky power cord. It's time to upgrade to the new Manscaped Beard Hedger Trimmer and level up your beard game. I'm excited to be one of the first to take a sneak peek at the Beard Hedger by Manscaped. Let's check it out. The powerful 7200 RPM motor and titanium coated T-blade can cut through the thickest of hair in a single stroke. Whether you prefer a 5 o'clock shadow or a tame lion's mane, you can choose from 20 different haircutting lengths with the zoom wheel that uses only one guard. That's right, there's only one guard needed for 20 different hair lengths. You can finally ditch all those useless guard attachments that clutter your bathroom drawers. The Beard Hedger was designed with a unique cutting angle to have its comb lift flat-lying hairs for single stroke trimming. The beard trimmer is waterproof, cordless, and rechargeable, so you can trim in the shower and save time and create less mess. It gets up to 60 minutes of runtime and has a 3-level power indicator that tells you when it's time to recharge. The Beard Hedge even comes with a grab-and-go travel case. If you're thinking about growing your first beard or you're a beard pro, Manscaped makes beard care easy. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code LUCKYGHOST at checkout. That's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code LUCKYGHOST at manscaped.com. Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped today. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the video. Next up, we have Old School RuneScape. RuneScape launched in 2001 and Old School RuneScape launched in 2013 based on a 2007 version of the game. If that's confusing, don't worry about it. The important thing is that you can play RuneScape for free on PC, Mac, and mobile. The game features an optional monthly sub of $11 per month, and if you'd rather, you can grind out in-game currency to buy your subscription to further avoid the need of spending real-life cash on the game. The free-to-play version of the game contains a decent amount of content, but if you enjoy the game, the sub will unlock a boatload of extra content that increases the game size approximately tenfold. This doesn't mean that the base game is small, just that they've been adding to it for a long time. Once again, Old School RuneScape does not feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, but instead has more of a rock, paper, scissors approach where melee, ranged, or magic classes are strong against one another. Old School RuneScape is one of the largest MMOs in the world, thanks in large part to its accessibility and unique position in the category, and is still actively supported by the devs. One of the most unique things about Old School RuneScape is that it has 0 microtransactions. That's rare for MMOs in general, but it's unheard of in free-to-play MMOs. This game is free and it even lets you buy your subscription with in-game gold. If you want a super old school feeling MMO where you level something by doing that thing, this might be the perfect MMO for you. Also, if you haven't upgraded your PC since 2007, this is definitely the perfect MMO for you as it will run on nearly anything and maybe even some toasters. Next up, we've got Warframe. Launched in 2013, available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. While I fully recognize that Warframe is not your typical MMO, it does feature a lot of MMO elements such as exploration, group play, quests, classes, and weapon and gear progression. And it's actually a really high quality free to play game, so I'm just going to slide it into the list in case you want to try it. Warframe is completely free to play. Not only do you not have to buy it, but there is also no subscription. If you've ever wanted to be a space ninja, look no further. Speaking of space, you'll unlock a spaceship that acts as your hub. After that, you'll be able to unlock and upgrade Warframes as you play the game. There are many Warframes and each one of them acts like a new class would in a normal MMO. The game does not feature a tank, healer, or DPS, but instead a lot of classes that can kill a lot of things really well. The story in the game is pretty good, but where it excels is in the fluid and fast-paced combat. It just feels really good. It has a healthy population with thousands of players playing every day and is still receiving tons of content. So the game is alive and well. Once again, all parts of this game are 100% free to play. If you want to jump from planet to planet doing some space ninja things, if you want to enjoy some of the smoothest feeling combat in any of the games on this list, or if you're just burned out on your average MMO recipe, Warframe might be a good choice for you. By the way, if you enjoy MMO content, consider power leveling that like and sub button so that you're alerted to more MMO content in the future. Next up, we've got EVE Online. Launched in 2003, is available on PC and Mac, and can be played for free with an optional sub, which is going to do things like help you unlock some quality of life options as well as some of the spaceships sooner. You can purchase your sub with in-game currency if you would prefer to go that route, making it possible to play the game entirely for free. EVE Online is more of a space exploration and spaceship building simulator, so you will use fleets instead of your typical tank, healer, DPS setup. In EVE Online, players form their own alliances and then battle for control of the most valuable portions of the universe. When your ship is destroyed, it does not respawn, so you'll need to build it again. This keeps the stakes high in these battles and the adrenaline flowing. Despite its age, EVE Online is still incredibly popular thanks to the fact that there's still nothing else out there like it. In addition to that, the devs updated the new player experience and are actively continuing to support the game. If you're looking for a spaceship building simulator with the potential to experience massive 1,000-player battles, EVE Online might be the game for you. Next up, we've got got Destiny 2, launched in 2017, available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Stadia, and is crossplay so that all of these platforms can play together. So if you and your friends are strewn across multiple platforms, this might be the game to consider. This is another one that doesn't perfectly fit into the list of MMOs, and I fully recognize that, but it is a very high quality entry with MMO elements in case you're looking for something a little different. You can play Destiny 2 for free, but as is often the case with free-to-play MMOs, veterans of the game will describe it as free to try more than free to play, as a lot of the best content will be locked behind the paid-for expansions. Regardless, you can get hundreds of hours of content out of the free version of the game if you're keen on it. Destiny 2 is a first-person shooter MMO that takes place in space on various planets. It has gear progression like an MMO, a weapon progression like an MMO, and instance dungeons and raids like an MMO. It just happens to be a first-person shooter in space. It has 3 classes to choose from: a tankier class, a magier class, and a dexteritier class. It does not quite adhere to the Trinity, but does feature it loosely across these classes if you want to lean into these roles a little bit. You can choose to explore planets or jump into PvP. So to sum it up, you can get hundreds of hours of free content out of the free-to-play version of the game, but you will be limited on just how many activities you can participate in. Unfortunately for free-to-players, there is no way to unlock that content via in-game currency, which means if you do end up enjoying the game, you will have to shell out some cash to get access to more of its content. It's a beautiful game and incredibly well polished, and if you've ever wanted to play something that fantastically merged first-person shooters and MMOs, Destiny 2 could be the perfect option for you. Next up, we have Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is an RPG first and an MMO second. There's a ton of story packed into this MMO, but don't mistake that for meaning there isn't any group content. Despite its focus on the story experience, it still has much more group content than almost any other MMO out there. Final Fantasy XIV is available on PC, Mac, PlayStation, but sorry Xbox, you're gonna have to sit this one out for now. It's definitely worth noting that you can only play the first 60 levels for free, including the dungeons, the raids, the trials, and the entire story through that point. Essentially, that's the entire base game and the first expansion. This is a ton of high quality content that you can enjoy for free, but if you want to go beyond that, you will have to pay for the game and the subscription. The free-to-play version of the game does have restrictions on your account to prevent gold sellers from destroying the economy with these accounts, but despite that, it's very generous free trial. This is the most traditional MMO on the list, featuring the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS. The class you pick determines the role you fill. If you pick a Dark Knight, you're a tank, and if you pick a Black Mage, you're a damage dealer. And the game allows you to change your class at will, allowing you to play every class on the same character. The one downside to this game for free-to-players is that if you do enjoy the game and you do want to play the rest of it, it will run you $60 to get the complete edition, which includes the entire base game and the most recent expansion. You'll also need a $13 a month subscription, but before you get to that point, you will have hundreds of free hours in one of the highest rated and most successful MMOs ever released. Next up, we have Star Wars: The Old Republic, launched in 2011, and like a lot of options on this list, it's starting to show its age. It's available on PC and is free to play the base game and all 8 of its class stories. The class stories are all unique, and each one has multiple endings that you can unlock based on decisions you make while you play. You can play a healer or a tank, though most content won't really require you to do so. While SWTOR does have group content today, it seems the best way to look at SWTOR is as a single player story adventure. To that end, it does a fantastic job. It is completely voice acted, and you're able to make meaningful and impactful decisions along the way. The decisions you make can and will determine the ending you unlock, with up to 3 different endings for each class. You can choose to subscribe to the game for $15 a month, and doing so for even just 1 month will permanently unlock all of the zones in the game. So if you find yourself enjoying the game, it might be worth it to subscribe for 1 month. That way you have access to everything. You've basically got an incredible base game story experience for free, and if you want to unlock everything else, you're looking at $15. If you're craving a great story, or perhaps a Star Wars game, or maybe you just want to kill things with lightsabers, well, then Star Wars might be the game for you to try. Next up, we have Albion Online. Albion Online is a fantasy sandbox MMORPG and is something a little different. It was released in 2017 and is available on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, and is, of course, free to play. Albion Online is a full loot PvP MMO, so adrenaline junkies, this is the one for you. It has tons of PvE content if you're into it, and it does a fantastic job of mixing PvP events into PvE environments. Don't worry, if you don't feel like PvP when you log in, the game does have a little bit of PvE content where you're safe from other players. Fortunately, if you lose a full loot PvP fight, it's not too terribly difficult to recover from. Most players are running around with gear that's worth maybe 1% of their net worth. Once you've been looted by an enemy, all you have to do is go buy replacement gear, and the game has made this process incredibly easy by letting you save loadouts so that you can purchase your loadout with a click of a button after you die. The game features a pretty massive progression tree where the more that you use something, the more you level it up and unlock things down that branch of the tree. The game has a healthy and active population and a very dynamic world that encourages players to head head to the specific areas and team up or fight or both. If you end up enjoying the game, you can choose to get some of the quality of life and increase progression speed by subscribing to the game for 12 bucks a month. Just be aware that the subscription is per character and is not account wide, so be sure to use the sub on the character that you intend on playing. And if you'd like to keep it free to play, you can buy the subscription with in-game currency. If you're looking for something different and high stakes that feels like a MOBA and an MMO or merged into one beautiful creature, Albion Online might be a great choice for you. Next up, we have Lord of the Rings Online. Lord of the Rings Online released in 2007, and in 2010 it went from being subscription-based to being completely free to play. Lord of the Rings Online's biggest mistake was probably launching 3 years after World of Warcraft, while World of Warcraft was in its prime. Lord of the Rings Online is a classic turn-based theme park MMO. It's got a respectable Lord of the Rings inspired story with some really solid voice acting. It's not massively popular, but it's alive enough to enjoy it. In order to have access to all the races and classes, you'll have to spend some money. You can choose to sub for 15 bucks a month in order to get things like extra inventory space, extra quests, and so on. If you want a fun little trip down nostalgia lane and a classic MMO experience that you can enjoy without spending any dime, maybe try Lord of the Rings Online. Next up, we have Blade and Soul. This is an action combat MMO that was released in 2014. Combat has always felt good in Blade and Soul, but it was a bit grindy and pay to win for Western audiences, greatly limiting its popularity outside of the East. That said, it's free to play and could be a fun MMO to drop a few days in, or maybe even a few weeks the next time you want something to play but don't want to spend money. Next up, we have MapleStory. MapleStory is a free-to-play 2D side-scrolling MMO developed by Wizit and published by Nexon. This is one of those games that has existed for roughly 20 years and has been incredibly popular for much of its life. It's a unique entry on this list and can be enjoyed for completely free. As a result, it's chock full of microtransactions. MapleStory has a ton of classes to try, which helps provide variety to the incredible grind that it offers. So if you're in the mood for killing screenfuls of enemies in a 2D side-scroller, maybe check out MapleStory. Next, we have Star Trek Online. Star Trek Online is another slightly different entry into the genre, originally released in 2010 as a buy-to-play with required monthly subscription. In 2012, however, it relaunched as free-to-play. The game is available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox and takes place 30 years after the events of Star Trek Nemesis. It features ground combat as well as space combat, but neither are lauded as particularly amazing. Still, if you're a Star Trek fan or you're craving a Star Trek story to dive into for a few days, it might be worth downloading this free-to-play MMO. As promised, all of these games can be enjoyed for hundreds of hours for free, and hopefully you found one that you want to try. A special thank you to my YouTube members for keeping the channel going. To find out how to become a YouTube member for perks like behind the scenes footage, private Discord channel, and more, click the join button below. Thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, hopefully you enjoyed the video, so be sure to like and sub for more MMO content and to keep that algorithm happy. If you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves MMOs, be sure to swing by my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/luckyghost. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of the videos popping up on screen right now.